All right, so get ready because today we are diving deep into communication.
Oh.
Yeah, those tricky phrases that can leave you wondering what's really going on. You guys sent in this Riz 101 class taught by a woman named Jenny. She says she's cracked the code on women's language.
Sounds interesting.
Let me tell you, some of this stuff is so relatable, it's scary.
Yeah, I can see how understanding these nuances, it could really help bridge that communication gap between genders.
Exactly. And for those of us, those of us who love a good shortcut to knowledge, we're going to break down Ginny's claims, like really analyze the psychology behind them,
Yeah.
and hopefully walk away with some practical tips for navigating these conversational minefields. Sound good?
I'm all for it.
Okay, perfect. So Ginny kicks things off with a phrase we've all heard, I'm fine. But is it ever really that simple?
Well, Ginny would say absolutely not. She claims that I'm fine, often masks a whole range of emotions.
Right, like imagine a woman saying, I'm fine, but she's saying it in this clip tone while scrolling through her phone, clearly not looking fine at all.
Oh, yeah, classic.
Right? Ginny even jokes that if a guy misses his cue and just goes back to his video games, he might as well kiss his relationship goodbye.
Haha, well delivered with humor for sure. But it does raise a good question, though. Why this indirectness? One theory is that societal conditioning plays a role. Women might feel pressure to downplay their emotions or avoid confrontation.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like maybe instead of saying, I'm furious that you forgot my birthday, it comes out as a passive-aggressive, I'm fine.
Precisely. It's not necessarily about being manipulative, it's more about navigating social expectations and power dynamics.
Interesting.
Sometimes it feels safer to hint at feelings rather than expressing them outright.
Okay, so how can we tell when I'm fine? How can we tell when it's genuine versus a coded message?
Well, it's all about paying attention to the nonverbal cues, the tone of voice, facial expressions, body language. If those signals contradict the words, it's worth probing further. Instead of just accepting I'm fine at face value, try saying something like, you seem a little down. Is something bothering you?
That's good advice.
Mm.
It's like being a communication detective, looking for those subtle clues. Now, Ginny doesn't stop there. She also dives into this idea that seemingly simple questions can actually be loaded with hidden meanings. For example, do you want to eat ice cream?
Ah, yes. Ginny would say this isn't just about craving a sweet treat. She uses this hilarious example of a woman saying she doesn't want to eat ice cream alone because she doesn't want to get fat by herself.
Okay, that's so funny and so
It
true.
really highlights this underlying desire for connection.
Oh yeah, I remember this one time.
It brings us to this concept of high context communication, where the meaning isn't just in the words themselves, but in the shared understanding and unspoken cues.
Fascinating.
So in this case, do you want to eat ice cream? It's less about the ice cream and more about the invitation to share an experience and create a moment of bonding.
So it's not just about the food, it's about the company.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm starting to see a pattern here. It's like there's this whole other language,
Mhm.
like a secret code we need to crack. Speaking of codes, Ginny also tackles this one infamous question. Do I look fat?
Oh boy, that one's a minefield.
I know, right?
Ginny really stresses the importance of an immediate and enthusiastic no, followed by a genuine compliment. Any hesitation, or heaven forbid, a yes,
Yeah, you're in trouble.
it's a recipe for disaster.
She even gives a mock RIP warning for anyone who gets this one wrong.
Ha ha ha.
But seriously, though, it highlights how sensitive this whole topic is. The pressure women feel about body image and beauty standards.
Absolutely. It's about understanding that emotional weight behind the question. It's not just about seeking validation. It's about feeling secure and loved.
Right.
A thoughtful response can go a long way in building trust.
So instead of overthinking it or trying to be logical, we need to approach it with empathy and reassurance.
Exactly.
Ditch the calorie charts and grab the compliments.
Now, Janine's Riz 101 isn't just about decoding individual phrases. She also gives some insights into broader communication patterns.
Okay, like what?
For example, she talks about how women often don't want solutions to their problems. They just want to be heard and validated.
Oh my gosh, this is so true. I remember one time I was venting to my ex about a super stressful day. And instead of just listening, he started offering all these solutions. It drove me crazy.
Classic example of what Ginny calls the solution trap.
The what?
The solution trap.
Okay.
This tendency to jump into fix-it mode instead of just acknowledging and validating the other person's feelings.
So next time someone's venting to me,
Hmm.
I should resist the urge to play superhero and just offer a listening ear.
Exactly. Sometimes empathy is more powerful than a toolbox full of solutions.
That's a good one.
Now, this difference in communication styles, It can also play out in other scenarios, like when it comes to offering and receiving help.
Yeah.
Ginny gives this example of the phrase, I'm going to grab something to eat. Do you want anything?
Oh, this is tricky. Because sometimes you genuinely don't want anything, but then you feel bad saying no.
Right. Well, Ginny would argue that even if a woman says no, you should still bring her food.
Really?
She claims that women often don't know what they want until they see the options.
So it's like a test to see if you're paying attention.
Perhaps. Or it could be about creating a sense of abundance and generosity. Like saying, I'm thinking of you and I want to make sure you're taken care of.
Hmm. That's actually kind of sweet when you put it that way. Okay, Ginny also dives into some potentially awkward situations, like the was she pretty scenario. Let's say you're walking with your partner and an attractive person walks by. Your partner asks, was she pretty? What's the safe response?
According to Ginny, the only acceptable answer is a confused who. She claims that any other response, even a denial, is likely to lead to trouble.
So feigning ignorance is the best way to avoid a jealousy explosion.
It seems a bit like playing with fire.
Yeah, it does.
It really highlights those complexities of navigating sensitive topics,
Choose your words carefully.
even in casual conversation.
Man, for all the single folks out there,
Mm.
Ginny offers some advice on decoding rejection. She claims that the classic, I don't want to ruin our friendship line, often just means there's no romantic interest.
Right. Ginny argues that if a woman is truly interested, she wouldn't let the fear of jeopardizing the friendship stand in the way.
Actions speak louder than words.
Exactly.
If she's really into you, she'll find a way.
It also speaks to the importance of clear communication. That line might seem like a gentler way to let someone down, but it can lead to more confusion and heartache in the long run.
So be direct and honest with your feelings
Even if it's uncomfortable.
to avoid sending mixed signals.
Hmm.
Good advice. Okay, let's tackle another communication conundrum. Ginny calls it the anything is fine dilemma.
Mm.
We've all been there, right?
Yeah.
You ask, what do you want to eat? And they say, anything is fine.
The classic anything is fine trap.
Right. What's the solution?
Ginny's advice, don't take it literally. Instead, offer multiple options and let her choose.
So she wants the illusion of choice, but she also wants you to read her mind.
Haha, perhaps. It could also be about avoiding the burden of decision-making by saying that she's putting the responsibility on you to choose something she'll enjoy.
So it's less about being indecisive and more about wanting to feel cared for.
It's possible.
Okay,
And this ties back to the idea of high-context communication.
right, where the true meaning is beyond the words.
Exactly.
Ginny even jokes that we can eat whatever as long as I agree.
Haha. It's a humorous way to highlight the nuances of communication, the importance of paying attention to both the verbal and nonverbal cues.
It's like the words are just the tip of the iceberg. If you want to really understand someone, you need to dive deeper. So we've got all this insight into women's language. But before we go around like analyzing every little phrase, maybe we should take a step back and consider the source.
Right. Ginny's Riz 101 is entertaining and definitely gets you thinking. But it's important to remember her insights are based on her own experiences and observations.
Right. She talks about getting her intel from friends and personal experiences, even watching a bunch of reels.
So while her examples might resonate with some women, they're not necessarily universal truths.
Yeah, everyone's different.
Every individual is shaped by their own unique experiences, their cultural influences, their personality traits.
So what works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly.
So Ginny's class is a good starting point, but it's not like a one-size-fits-all guidebook.
The key takeaway here, I think, is to approach communication with curiosity and a willingness to learn. Instead of assuming you know what someone means, try asking questions and actively listening.
This whole deep dive has been really eye-opening. Like, I'm realizing it's not always about what's being said, but how it's being said, and even what's left unsaid.
And for you, dear listener, the question to ponder is, how can you apply these insights to your own communication?
Yeah, maybe it's about paying more attention to those nonverbal cues, or being more aware of the emotions behind the words.
Or maybe it's about having the courage to be more direct, even when it feels a little uncomfortable.
It's a journey.
The beauty of communication is that it's a continuous learning process. The more we understand the complexities of language and how our experiences shape how we express ourselves, the better we can navigate those misunderstandings and build stronger connections.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of women's language, let's all try to approach our conversations with more empathy, a little bit of humor, and a whole lot of open-mindedness.
After all, isn't that what makes communication so fascinating? The constant exploration and discovery of how we connect on a deeper level?
Absolutely.
Oh.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll crack the code on men's language, too. Now, that would be a deep dive for the ages.